Hello, everyone. My name is Vanessa Santiago, and I want to thank you for joining me on this podcast. Here on The Voice of Tamar, we talk about the importance of overcoming traumatic events and understanding that there is life after trauma. I hope that this episode helps spark the fuse that would encourage you to share your story. And if you want to continue this conversation after the episode, please be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Voice of Tamar. Thank you.
You are now listening to The Voice of Tamar with Vanessa Santiago.
Hello, friends. If you have not seen it yet, I released a documentary kind of sharing a little bit of my background and my story and kind of my process of really healing from that place. So this morning I went into a time of prayer because I was just thinking about some things. And so, in short, please don't stay in this moment because you'll miss the whole message. But I had a gentleman who touched me in an inappropriate way. It's been handled though. Police have been called and everything is taken care of and squared away. But what I realized is that I began to kind of shrink back, and I didn't necessarily want to. I don't know. I just felt like I was not being as outgoing as I usually am, and I'm introverted, so my outgoingness is not very extreme. But I just felt like a little bit of a shrink back within myself. I started to be a little bit more intentional about what I wore, a little bit more intentional about my surroundings, a little bit more fearful. And I began to pray about that. And I realized that when you've experienced some kind of trauma, it is pretty likely that that trauma will weave itself into your personality. And if you are not super aware of who you are and who God has called you to be, you will believe that those behaviors are you. So some examples of that is being super fearful, having moments of extreme anxiety when you are in places where, like pumping gas in the middle of the night, super nervous about your kids being more than 3 feet away from you, or even the belief that you dressing a certain kind of way is giving someone permission to violate you in any type of way. So I just began to pray and ask the Lord to show me areas in my life where trauma has really weaved itself into my personality. And I believe that this is just me, when it's really just something that has kind of affected my personality as a result of being violated. And so, people think that when you've been through something, there's just like one quick moment where you kind of talk about it and you're completely healed. And that's so far from the case. Healing comes in layers. A traumatic moment affects you for a very long time, and so sometimes there are layers that really need to be peeled back in order for you to be fully healed from that. And sometimes there are things that happen in your life, or there are things that you do that you don't necessarily even see as side effect of what you've been through until you have grown and matured in a certain way, and then you start to ask yourself, why do I respond or behave in certain ways when things like this happen? And so, that was just my thought, like, Lord, just show me, those areas in my life that are not necessarily who I am, but I respond or behave in certain ways because I've been through something, and it's a way of me defending myself or whatever the case may be. I'm trusting that the Lord will really do that for me. And so if you have not watched the documentary, I would really encourage you to do so. I really appreciated the support that I received that day, and even moving forward, and the people who trusted me to share their stories with me. It was a blessing. And just know, once again, that healing comes in layers. It's not a 2-second thing. Give yourself some grace and some room to grow. Find someone you trust to share what you've been through with them, and receive the love and the grace and the mercy and the protection of the Father.